I love traveling in unconventional ways and definitely love traveling on the highway. Just getting out there on the open road, driving around, experiencing new things, really getting lost, just getting lost on the highway. Because sometimes some of the best images come out of that. Life is a highway. So, really at the end of the day, getting on that open road, there's so much more to traveling. I feel like a lot of people get caught up with just going to major cities, major airports, going to large monuments, large national parks, and they never go to those places in between. And that's, to me, just as much a part of the adventure and sometimes more enriching of adventure than those destinations we all think about. I love traveling on the highways. I love getting out in the open roads, like here in the Tetons. You're just getting out on the open roads. And why do I love this so much? I really love it because it's just freedom. It's freeing. It's one of those things where you can go anywhere. You can do anything you want. You're not restricted as much as you are in cities or in places where you have to do this schedule, do this thing. I believe this can unlock your photography because a lot of times we get locked into a certain kind of location, photo tours, places, we get restricted on what we can do. Having that flexibility and freedom to modify plans, being able to adjust and say, oh, today I'm gonna go that way because there's no clouds or rain or whatever I'm trying to avoid, it allows you that freedom to kind of adventure. It allows you to adjust your schedules. Maybe I'm going to shoot in the morning, or maybe that's going to be bad lighting or bad weather. I'm going to go later, or go eat now. But really, at the end of the day, what I love about it is you can get more lost. I do a lot of planning, I have a lot of classes on that. I'm very big on planning. But with that planning comes with its advantage of you can modify your plan when you've planned, which I know sounds counterintuitive, but when you know what's expected, what the different areas are around you, where you could go or where you can't go, what you have access to, you're able to modify those plans very quickly. So it's very much one of those things where you can get lost in the moment. The other thing I love about this, where we do a lot of our family travel, is it allows you to experience the in-between of our world to my daughter. I love being able to show her more than just a plane ride over the middle of the country, come down and land and you're in another city. Being able to drive through these areas, a perfect example is driving between Amarillo, Texas and Dallas, Texas, very much middle of somewhat nowhere. And, a bunch of farmland, a lot of wind turbines, and she saw this plane flying over the ground, but it had this stuff coming out of it. And she asked me, "What is that?" I said, "Well, that's a crop duster." She's like, "What's a crop duster?" This concept was foreign to her, and I said, "It's the fertilizer they're putting on the crops," and it's cool that she sees, that's food, that's stuff being grown, that's not just, it doesn't just show up at the grocery store, somebody had to grow that, somebody had to fertilize that, somebody had to take it to the store. We've seen grain stores in our travels, distribution centers, being able to see that this stuff moves gives a different perspective, especially for kids, to be able to expose them to that. But even myself getting exposed to all this stuff is amazing. For photographers, what I love about this is, again, that freedom, because there is nothing worse than going on a trip and being in one of these. This is where we end up living our lives a lot of times when we're doing these travels. We're on tour buses. And the problem with tour buses is a couple things. One, they always arrive too late. They're always leaving the location you want to be way too early. And this is where, for years, we would do this stuff, and then I'd always be frustrated, and I'd be like, why am I doing this? And then being able to have that freedom to stay in that location after that tour bus, because the other thing that tour buses do is they dump off hundreds of other people with you at that same location. So now you've got all these people, they're all jam-packed, it's all in the middle of the day, it's all in crappy light, and we have to work with it. But if you can kind of free yourself, and that's really what this is about, is free yourself, or just think about maybe trying it out. And I'm telling you, I think once you try it out and free yourself from the typical like tour bus, hotel, plane, going to locations, seeing it, then if you start freeing yourself from that routine, it becomes better. There's nothing like going to some of these places in beautiful light. You know, that's the one thing. Being at the Grand Canyon is amazing at twilight. It's really amazing at sunset or sunrise. It's not so amazing in the middle of the day. I'm just saying, consider taking a road trip, getting on the highway. But what do we have to do in order to do that? Well, we have to consider, what are we going to use as a vehicle? I love camper vans, RVs, trailers. I mean, that's what I would always say is try that, because I'm telling you, there's nothing like taking your hotel room with you and having it always with you. Of course, we also love this because we have dogs and they can come along with us. There's always that positive. But you could take a car, you can take that car and pop up a tent if you want to, and experience different ways of doing it. There is nothing like being in beautiful scenery in an RV where you can just kind of get lost in the moment. Not to say that you couldn't do it another way, and there are beautiful destinations that you can go to and stay in beautiful hotels. The only difference is a lot of times the cost to stay in those destinations is way higher than what it costs in your own vehicle. It doesn't have to be really fancy. It doesn't have to be anything luxurious. You got to think, if you want to try this out. I was just out, we were out in Arizona, Rampton Kazemi, who's another Kelby One instructor, and we just slept in our cars, just slept in our cars out in a remote location, shot overnight, and my camera's running overnight, did a bunch of photography there. And that's fine for a night or two. But if you wanted to, if you go to an RV or camper or a camper van, you're just getting something where you still have those creature comforts as well. You can still rent vehicles in local areas. You can stay closer to where you want to be. But there's definitely things that you can do to be connected again with that adventure. So a couple considerations when talking about traveling this way. The vehicle, is what you're driving safe? Is what you're driving able to do what you need it to do? That's a big thing. Vehicle safety, making sure that your vehicle is reliable. It's not going to break down on you. Making sure I do a lot of maintenance on my vehicles before we go, so we don't run into those instances when we're out in the middle of nowhere. Making sure too that I am stocked up with the right supplies to make sure that I can change a tire, I can blow up a tire, I can call for help. All these things that you might not think about. But once you get into it, it's not as complex as you would think. Will it handle the terrain you're going to throw at it? That's a big thing with your vehicle, is making sure that it will handle your terrain. There's places that you do need higher clearance vehicles, and different times where you have to be concerned about mud, snow, rain, different things like that. Something to think about. The other thing is your vehicle big enough or small enough? Right? Making sure that you've got a right size vehicle. I find a lot of people tend to go too big at first. They're always going bigger than they need. If you're starting out, I've noticed that statistically, people get frustrated with it. They're driving something bigger. They think they need all this room because I want to relax. I want to live in luxury, and they're driving this Class A, and then they're backing into stuff, or they can't find parking, or they can't find places to go, or they're pulling a trailer for the first time, having trouble backing it in. Starting off small, renting something smaller, and working your way up, because that's where you can get very frustrated. And then the other thing to consider is your distances and how you're going. How's your vehicle's fuel economy? That's one thing to keeping the cost low. I love this way of doing it because it does keep my costs way lower. I've done comparisons, way lower going this way. But fuel economy is a concern. So making sure you have something that is going to be economic on your wallet. One of the things when you're going there is your routes and how you're going to get there. I always like planning when I'm doing photo adventures like this, travel photography going in between, is to plan loops. So planning it to where I can plan a path where I'm never tracing over where I've already been or having to backtrack the way I've been. I always try to do loops or something where I can, and it also helps with your sanity, not to be driving on the same roads over and over again. Sometimes you can't avoid it. If you're renting, always consider a one-way trip rather than looping back to a destination, trying to, like, say, fly out to a destination, renting something, and then bringing it back. Now, that's not always feasible, but trying to do it to where you don't have to backtrack. Now, again, renting, you can always loop. Loops are the best thing. Plan around photography. Plan around the optimal times. For me, my wife and daughter are not morning people, so every morning's a photo shoot because they're not going to be up. I'll make the coffee or grab the coffee on the way back, and then we can do breakfast and start our day. Making sure you're in your destination before you need to be, right? The one flaw that I know I do all the time, and I've learned to just not do this, is I'll put in a destination. I'll say, I'm going to stay at this place and I want to get to this destination. Google or Waze says 45 minutes. Well, I always know I'm going to increase that to an hour and 15 minutes. I'm always going to give myself a 30-minute buffer. Why? Something could happen, get me there late. There could be a problem with road or weather. I could just want to stop along the way because something's awesome along the way and I don't have that built-in buffer to let me stop. So always giving yourself that extra little buffer to take little detours, keep it a little fun and not so regimented. So that's one of the things. And that's where typically my day when I'm doing travel for photography like this is wake up and shoot, do some local adventures during the day, and then we kind of take a break in the middle of the day. The reason we do that is, one, that's usually the time when every place is crowded. You know, there's a time from about midday, right before lunchtime, to right before dinner time, or like late afternoon, that every place is just busy. It's also during the summer when every place is hot, crowded. These are times when, as a photographer, you know, it's just not beautiful. You can try your darndest, but it's just not the time. If you want the more beautiful stuff, and that's where I found it, I just modify my schedule. Just modify my schedule to nap and rest during that middle part of the day in order to give myself those times in the beginning and the ends of the day when it is beautiful. I am a night photographer, so I do go out at night and kind of do stuff around the night as well. And love to shoot at twilight. Twilight's a great time to shoot. If you're a night owl like me and you're looking to maximize your time with traveling, and you're not scared or timid to drive at night. I know that it's harder to drive at night, especially with vision. I'm a night owl, I don't have a problem with that, but I can say that on our longer trips, those overnight drives where we kind of break it up between my wife and I, that the overnight drives are so much easier and less stressful because there's a couple things that happen at night. One is people aren't traveling at night. The other thing is a lot of truckers aren't traveling at night. A lot of them are in rest stops. They have to be resting and all that. There's laws and regulations. A lot of them do tend to rest in that time, and the same goes for people. So the roads aren't as crowded. I only do this on major highways or major interstates. I don't like to travel at night on very secluded back roads. It's just harder. But on interstates, interstate driving at night, way easier for me than driving during the day. So it's a way to get long chunks of travel in without eating up a lot of your days and a lot of your time. Finally, let's say you just don't have a vehicle and you want to try this out. Well, there's tons of places you can go and actually rent an RV. You can go rent my RV if you want. You can go over to rvshare.com. search up an RV based on I'm going to be at this location. I'm looking for something I could drive, something I could tow. You can come on here. There's RV Share. There's also Outdoorsy, which is another one. And a lot of these sites also have camper vans or overlanders or different types of vehicles to rent. Just an interesting way to get into this. This is always what I would suggest. Do not go and buy something and just go first time. Always start here, because you're gonna find that either you love it or you hate it, or I like this, but I wish it was smaller. I like that, but I wish it was bigger. Well, then just keep on renting until you find the right thing. Same thing I always preach for gear is, unless you know exactly what you want, like I want this lens because I've used it and it's awesome, don't go buy that lens. Rent that lens and figure out, well, maybe I don't need the 85-1.2. It turns out the 85-1.8 was just fine, right? And right there, you saved thousands of dollars just by making that decision. So that's where this will save you money. Another site, RV Easy, basically same thing. These are all 3 sites where you can just go rent RVs and try it out. That's what I would always recommend. Start there. The other thing you can do is search for free campsites to stay at. There's freecampsites.net. This is a great database. There's a lot of places you can stay for free if you want to. There's also a lot of, on this site, they also list a lot of Walmarts will let you overnight camp there for a night. And then freeroam.app, another place to check out and see all the places that you can rent. Another one, and I've done this before, it's a great option, the Bisti Badlands, I've shot out there before. That's on Bureau of Land Management land. Valley of the Gods as well. You can actually camp out for 14 days on Bureau of Land Management land for free. Not all of them you have to check, but most of them you can. There's a place right outside the Badlands National Park as well that you can do that same thing. I'm all about saving the money, getting out there and traveling, getting out to those cool destinations, because like we talk about, part of photography is putting yourself in front of cool things in the right time, in the right light, and the right location. And that's a lot of what travel photography is all about.
Hey, Erik Kuna here, one of your instructors for the Travel Photography Conference, and I can't wait to be teaching alongside some of the best in the industry. Go over to KelbyOneLive.com and learn more. I hope to see you there.